What's good, Celtics fans? Welcome back to the Vitamin C Show. I'm your host, Adam Taylor, joined by my boy and co-host, Mr. Tim Shields, giving you your daily dose of Celtics content. We weren't going to release one today, I'm going to be quite honest with everybody, but then the Celtics decided that they wanted to drop some news on our domes. So, here we are. We're going to be talking about Robert Williams' contract extension and what that means for Robert Williams, for the Celtics, and then, if there's any future kind of issues that could arise from this via health or via free agency restrictions. So let's get straight into it. Robert Williams got extended. It's a 4-year deal. It works out to $13.5 million AAV, which, if I'm not mistaken, Tim, is how much per year? Because my mind's gone blank.
I'll get back to you.
It's like
it's God, math. So you got 54 over 4. That's 13.5.
5. Yeah, 54 over 4. You see, math. Throw Tim on the spot, and we'll just see how it goes.
Calculator.
No, jokes aside, though, I think this is a good deal. I'm surprised by the length of the deal. Like all offseason, I've been saying my ideal deal for Rob Williams would be a 1+1. Talking around about the $10 million a year kind of region. That gives Rob Williams a legitimate payday of $10 million guaranteed, and then a team option on the second year. So if his health this season and next was an issue still, you could easily detach yourself from that team option and look to try and build around some other pieces. Obviously, Brad Stevens saw different. Who am I to question? This seems, I haven't seen the complete breakdown of this deal yet, but it seems like it's fully guaranteed all the way through. So Rob Williams is about to get paid. My only concern is the injuries. We'll talk about his upside in a moment, but where's your head at with all this, Tim?
I think it's just them trying to lock in an asset that could potentially walk down the line. This was, in terms of like the order of operations of things that Brad Stevens had to worry about, like this was one of the long-term concerns, in addition to Marcus Smart's extension, as well as moving Kemba Walker this offseason. So the fact is he's gone down his checklist and he's hitting all the boxes that you'd want him to hit. And the fact is Marcus Smart and Rob Williams are both now taken care of long-term. If you want to move them down the line, there's still a possibility to do that, but you're keeping guys who you should reward for good play. And it's also making Jason Tatum happy. Jason Tatum was stoked about both extensions. And I know if you go back to an interview, I think back in April, Rob Williams is one of Jason Tatum's like most fun people to play with. Like he's like, I love playing with Rob. So I think this is good for not only Rob Williams, it's good for the Celtics. Yeah, there's the health risks, and we will get into that for sure. But considering how good he plays when he is healthy, that deal might be a bargain if you can get the most out of him and figure a way to manage his minutes to keep him healthy long term.
Yeah, I tweeted this saying that, as an impactful guy, there's only Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown that have more positive impact on the floor than Rob Williams. The only issue is that Rob Williams doesn't see the floor consistently enough to be a consistent impact. And that's where the concerns are. I know Brad Stevens said at some point last season, Rob Williams will never be anything more than a 25 minute per game a night guy because of degenerative knee issues. You've got the back issues. And then you look at the way he plays and the explosiveness that he uses, the way he lands quite flat-footed off dunks and stuff. That's going to have an issue on those knees as well. So I get it. You know what I mean? I understand that the injury risks here are quite high, but at the same time, Robert Williams as a big man has the potential to be one of the, if not the best passing bigs in the league. I think that his passing skills are really underrated from the perimeter, from the short roll, secondary creation. If somebody gets that high-low entry pass, he'll fling it straight back out to a weak side corner. He really reads the game well. He processes where passing opportunities are, and he makes sure that he gets them early and often. And then if you look at his ability as a vertical spacer, he's a really underrated screener around the perimeter as well. They used a lot of Chicago sets with him in. They ran some Miami offense on the wings as well. So having Rob Williams like that and what he brings to the table, even if it's off the bench, at 13.5 a year, I think that if he can stay relatively healthy throughout this contract, Boston win this deal hands down.
Yeah, and I think that's also the reason why they pulled the trigger now. You don't want to get further down the line and try and be haggling over a few million a year. This is, it came to fruition pretty quickly. Like they were obviously been working on this probably behind the scenes a lot, but there weren't really any murmurs of this extension coming. At least we got a little bit of a warning with the Marcus Smart one. Like this one kind of just came out of left field. It was just like, happy Friday. Like Rob's here for at least another 4 years, barring some kind of move. So I think it's good. And you have a really good point. As much as Rob is known to be this defensive stalwart, like his blocking ability is insane. We've seen that, due to his athleticism and the way that he plays. But his offensive, like it's incredible how good of a passer he is. There's been a couple of times where you've seen him do the touch passes where literally like the ball's in the air, he just tips it out to the perimeter and gets an open three in the corner. Like that's just, you can't teach that. Like that is just something that's a natural gift. It'll be interesting to see if like Ime Udoka tries to get him to be a little bit more patient in just trying to how he's going to take care of his body. Maybe there are ways that they can tweak his play style where you still get the most out of him on both ends of the floor, but you're also limiting the amount of damage he could potentially do to himself. He kind of goes out there by like a wrecking ball sort of style play. But if you can get that under control a little bit, maybe you limit those injury risks. And maybe that's something that they can focus on, I guess, early on while they try and figure out how this team is going to work together.
Yeah, I mean, for me, defensively, the only downside I've got with Rob, and he resolved some of this earlier on this season, was simply just by the fact that his defense previously has always been based on recovery. He's always been a solid shot blocker due to the fact he can recover with athleticism. Now he's starting to learn defensive positioning a little bit more. He's starting to learn how to move, when to slide his feet, when to stand and try and draw charges. And that makes a ton of difference as well as a defensive impact. And I think that positional improvement is what's led to the game against Brooklyn, where he had ridiculous numbers in blocks, where we're at a point now where we can genuinely believe if Rob Williams is healthy, he's contending for a defensive player of the year type level of rim protection and rim deterrence. So there, I understand it as well. I think for me, the mentality behind this deal was if Rob Williams is healthy this year, regardless if he's restricted, if he stays healthy and impactful all year, the offer sheets that are coming in are closer to the 16 to 19 million a year range. So tying him down now and taking that gamble on health makes a bunch of sense to save money down the line, because who knows, he could all of a sudden his body could figure it out. And now he is a borderline defensive player of the year, one of the best passing bigs. If he develops a mid-range jump shot off that short roll, all of a sudden, how the hell do you guard this dude? There's so much growth that's available to him if he stays healthy that tying him down for 13.5, I just can't see the downside here, other than the fact that there is the risk he never plays because he's always injured. It's the biggest risk. And I know we spoke about Romeo having that same risk, but as I said yesterday, when Romeo's on the floor, you don't get the impact that Robert Williams gives you.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's also good that Al Horford is here, because when Rob was coming up, Al Horford was a huge mentor for him. And we already know how good of a passer Rob is. And then you have a guy like Al Horford getting added in this situation. Al Horford's another great passing big. And I'm sure you saw it too, but Al Horford was congratulating Rob Williams as well as Jason Tatum. So there is a lot of love there. There's a really good relationship between the two. And because you have Al Horford back in the building, he can further mentor Rob as well as help platoon his minutes. That's going to be a big thing in order to try and manage his health. As we talked about before, the 25 minutes a game around that earmark is probably the best that we can expect of Rob as of right now. I don't know if there's anything additional they could do for his conditioning. I know that they brought back, was it Nick Sang, who worked pretty closely with Jason Tatum. I think he was a trainer who worked with the Celtics before. Then I think he was with the Patriots, and now he's back with the Celtics. So maybe that's something that could help as well. But I'm interested to see how they manage his health, because I think that's really, like we've talked about a lot, is just that's going to be the one real hurdle for the rest of his career. If he can stay healthy, there's no doubt on his impact on the game.
And if he can't stay healthy and you decide that you don't want 2 more years of this deal, there'll be another team that wants to bite on that upside. And at 13.5 million a year, you can move that contract. It is a very movable contract. It's great for salary matching purposes. A lot of teams will bite on that upside regardless of the injury history, because there's always somebody out there that thinks that they can fix it. Basketball teams, yeah, NBA teams are like those single girls taking on the bad boys. Like, I know I can fix him, I can change him. So there's always going to be a team out there that wants to at least give that an attempt. And if not, they'll take that intermittent impact from when he is healthy for 13.5 mil. Now, I think for Boston, you'll much rather him be game managed, load managed earlier in the year, so you can kind of throw him in the deep end once you get down to chasing seeding at the end of the season, then give him a bit of a break and then throw him in for playoff ball. I think you need to be very situational with how you divvy up his minutes, how you kind of manage his body recovery after games, after intense training sessions. But if you do that and you run this right, then and you can keep him healthy, well, I think he's the difference between being a 6th seed and being a 3rd seed. I genuinely do. I think he has that much of an impact, whether that be from the bench or whether it be in the starting 5. Just the rebounding, the passing. If you can develop that mid-range game, I just think there's so much to him, and the way he's going to bounce off guys like Schroeder, guys like Smart. Marcus Smart loves to throw lob passes to Rob Williams. I know guys that call Rob Williams Lob Williams. Like, it just, there's so much to be excited about. That 13.5 mil, dude. I keep saying it, but I just don't see the bad side in this deal.
Yeah. And I mean, we talked about how we thought the Smart deal was good because ultimately in the long run, the Celtics were going to win on that deal. Whether or not he is moved, whether or not, you're doing anything outside of bringing guys back that would potentially walk in free agency. Rob is another example of this. Like, I think when I think of impactful Celtics, he is towards the top of the list. And he's also just so fun to watch too. So like, there's a lot of things. Like, he's just a fun player to watch and enjoy. And it's just all around, it's just like a really feel good thing. Like, he deserves to get that money. And I think this is also a good, like, it's a showing of faith of like, hey, we believe in your potential. We believe that you can be a contributor here. Now, don't worry about the pay. Take care of your health. And we'll go from there. Oftentimes when guys are trying to get extensions and they've got that in the back of their mind, it makes you overthink things. So it's another thing that could have potentially been an issue down the line that is now being diffused. So now it's more so worrying about health, taking care of that, load management, and figuring out how this team is going to play together. Like, that's really what it comes down to. When you take out any kind of drama like that, it's always a good thing. And this is a great market deal. Like, I think he would have got paid more if he hit the market, honestly.
Yeah, I think another thing we need to touch on here is the difficulty for anyone that's like, oh, now they've extended him, it's going to be easier to trade him mid-season if they need to and
Right.
stuff.
The poison pill.
Yep. So it's also known as the base year compensation. I've always known it as the poison pill too. Basically, what that means is Boston sending out Rob Williams, the team that's receiving Williams, needs to be able to absorb the full value of that 5-year contract. So they need that 13.5 million available throughout their cap space. Boston only can take back the value of Robert Williams' current contract, not the extension. So any idea of moving Rob Williams, it's still possible, becomes super difficult. You can go onto the CBAFAQ.com, search poison pill. You can explore it there yourself. I think that's difficult. There's going to be other people out there saying, oh, well, Marcus Smart tied down for 4, Robert Williams tied down for 4. You've basically extended their value. You've stopped their value from plummeting as 1-year guys. And now you can throw them in a sign and trades next year once both extensions kick in. Is it possible? Yes. Is it realistic in a Bradley Beal pursuit? Well, I don't think so. The Washington Wizards had Daniel Gafford, Thomas Bryant. They've just took on what's his name? There's another big there too that I'm not completely sold on. They've got Daniel Gafford, they've got Thomas Bryant.
Do you want me to look up the depth chart? I will.
Yeah, we can forget about it. There's a third big there anyway. Montrezl Harrell, that's who it was.
Oh, Harrell, yeah.
So they've got 3 guys there already. So why would they want Rob Williams when Daniel Gafford's giving them a bit less than what Rob Williams does, but a bit more stability. I know he's been injured recently, but his injury history isn't like Rob's. So I don't see why that would go into there. And obviously, if you're the Celtics, you can't be taking any bigs back because you're literally trying to match Beal's salary on that sign and trade. So it is possible, but I think that the more we see these extensions from like a bird's eye view, the more realistic that maybe a superstar, 3rd star pursuit is kind of dead in the water at this point.
Yeah, they would have to be a lot of finagling, potentially bringing in a 3rd team. I mean, it's not like the contract is immovable, but I think the likelihood, if there was ever going to be a deal, would be probably further down the line, like in the off season of next year, if anything. And particularly like with Bradley Beal, we talked about it before in like our message group, but that would be more of like an opt-in and trade similar to what Chris Paul did when he went from the Clippers to the Rockets. And again, like you said, if they've already got plenty of bigs in Washington, like maybe a third team comes in and you add another dance partner there. But again, that's a lot of moving parts. Like trades
And
are
I
very, very
just don't.
difficult.
A
Yeah,
3-team trade to give you Bradley Beal. There's not going to
it
be a
might
lot
not
of
be
teams.
worth it.
There's not going to be a lot of smart front offices that want to get involved to make another powerhouse. You know what I
Again,
mean?
yeah.
That's the thing. You've already got to deal with Brooklyn. You've got to deal with the Lakers. You've got to deal with the Bucks. Do we really want to get involved and elevate the Celtics too? For what? For Rob Williams and a couple of picks that are going to convey in the late 20s, early 30s? Like, it doesn't make sense. If I was that front office, I'd be like, well, hell no, I'm not touching this, dude.
Mm-mm.
All I'm
Nope.
doing is making my life harder for the next 5, 6, 7 years. I saw somebody tweet out earlier about Zach LaVine being a better option than Beal because of his
Yeah,
age, because of his fit. It was Ryan
Bernardoni.
Bernardoni,
Yeah,
yeah.
Danger
And
Card.
I spoke about this with Sam Quinn from CBS on his podcast the other day. I think Zach LaVine's a better fit than Bradley Beal, but I also think Colin Sexton's the best fit out of all three. And a lot of people are going to throw shade there because Colin Sexton's known as selfish. But if he's known as selfish, why is it okay for Schroeder to be known as selfish? I do think that Sexton fits there better than both of them in terms of fit, not in terms of skill or upside or just genuine individual talent, but in terms of roster fit and timelines and stuff. That could be Sexton. Now, could you do a deal with an extended Marcus Smart to try and bring in Sexton? Well, yes, you could, because they want to pair a defensive guard next to Darius Garland. They need somebody to hold guys accountable there. So there's going to be a lot of things going on, but I think that superstar trade, that Bradley Beal, Damian Lillard type thing, honestly, I'm at the point now where I'm like, that's dead in the water.
Yeah, and I think at the end of the day too, you have to think about what's the best for the team moving forward. Like, does adding another guy who needs the ball in his hands make sense if you are trying to have Jason Tatum handle the ball more? Like that doesn't really compute. So maybe it's more so just building around the Jays and figuring out like, hey, if there's a guy that we can buy low on, or a guy who's still on his rookie scale contract that needs an extension coming up, like a Colin Sexton, like if we can make a deal for that kind of guy, is that something that makes sense from like a Celtics front office perspective? So I assume any and all moves, whether they be trades or signings, are going to be run by the Jays as well as Udoka. So far, so good, I think, for this offseason for what they've done. And they've still got some work to do. Brad Stevens made that clear. Talking about, well, now that Summer League is over, we've got some roster management we still have to do. And I'm sure that this Rob Williams extension was one of those things, but hey, another TPE to play with. There's more things that can be done, and I'm excited to watch it go down. This is a lot of fun, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm excited too, man. I think that Brad Stevens said that there might be some more moves to be made. The roster's got too many guys at the moment, so I'm still expecting some more fireworks to come out of nowhere. Those Woj notifications aren't going anywhere. They don't go anywhere all year anyway,
Never.
but still, I check them a bit quicker than normal. Everybody that's watching, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We'll be back on Monday with your next dose of Celtics content. You've been watching the Vitamin C's. Vitamin. English man says vitamin. English man says vitamin. Right.
Vitamin.